شيخ نور، السلام عليكم.
Using the voice, just specify now so the mic should flow with it. I'm telling you, I'm reading out the verse.
Yeah.
Yesterday the issue.
شيخ نور.
So Nergis is a Sakina. Who's a widow? This is Nergis. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum assalam.
Verse is chapter number 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 124. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين.
Sorry, what is her number? Her number and her name.
Number, your number, please.
03 GA03 GA03
Oh, GA03. And what's your name?
Narjis Khatun Kasam.
Okay, thank you.
No, if you want to. Okay. My marks on the got, yeah. Do you want me to I'm already so that's okay.
Notice when you're ready, just let us know.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. The verse I got was, and remember when his Lord tried Ibrahim with certain words and he fulfilled them. He said, verily I make you an Imam, leader of mankind. He, Ibrahim, said, and of my offspring. He said, my covenant will not include the unjust. So in this verse, the context behind why the verse was revealed was to prepare the people for the changing of the Qibla to the Kaaba and to show the significance of the Kaaba and how important it was. So in the verse it says that Prophet Ibrahim, when we tested him with certain words, what are the words? What are the kalimat that Prophet Ibrahim was tested with? So he had to slay his own son. That was one of the tests of faith and how strong his faith was. He had to leave his wife and his son in an uninhabited desert, and he had to break the idols, and he was thrown into the fire. So that was a test of patience and also a test of faith and how strong his faith was. Then once he fulfilled all these tests successfully, once he passed all these tests successfully, Allah wanted to give him a gift and he granted him imamat. Now, he was already a prophet and he knew that he was a prophet. So the fact that Allah is granting him imamat just shows how higher standard it is to be an imam and how the level it has compared to a prophet. So then Prophet Ibrahim always used to pray about his children, and because he saw how high of a rank an imamat is, he didn't want to let it go. He also wanted it to be for his descendants. So he pleaded to Allah, and for my offsprings, and Allah did respond. He said, my covenant will not include the unjust. So this shows that Allah did accept the plea of Prophet Ibrahim to make his offsprings an imam, however, not to the unjust. Now, who are the people who are unjust? The people who are unjust are the people who not only do injustice to themselves, but also do injustice to others. And they also worship false deities. And yeah, those are the people who are unjust. And Allah said, we will not give imamat to them. Yeah, that's it.
In short, this verse is talking about.
In short, this verse is talking about how Prophet Ibrahim, it's talking about giving how high of rank imamat is, and about how important the Kaaba is. Also talks about the people who are unjust and how how we got all the imams, and so they're all from the progeny of Prophet Ibrahim. They all come from him, and how they got it was because Prophet Ibrahim pleaded for them.
Can we use this particular ayah to prove that the status of imamat, it's a divine status, and the imams are appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not by consensus and not by a person, but it is appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can we use this ayah or not?
Yes, we can.
From where?
Because it says, so Prophet Ibrahim knew he was a prophet, right? And he was given a rank of imamat. So this shows how high of a rank imamat is. And the prophet did not say that I want my offsprings to be the unjust. He just pleaded to Allah to ask for his offsprings to be, an imam. And Allah did accept his plea because Allah was going to make his offsprings an imam, only those who are just and those who are righteous in the religion.
From this ayah, which part of the ayah is saying that Allah is the one who is appointing imam?
My covenant will not include the unjust. Also, I make you an Imam, leader of mankind.
إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. So Allah is saying that I'm the one who is making you Imam for the mankind. So Allah is the one who is making. Okay. This particular verse was revealed. Okay. And all this happened, all this test. Okay, let me start from here. Test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so it's not a test. Okay, we are discussing. In school, for example, in your school, you have exams. Okay, the one who is taking your exam, does he or she know that how much will you score or not?
If they've taught us in class and they know how we are, then they would know how we score.
Normally, we don't know. For example, you're sitting in front of me before taking the test. Okay, I don't know how much will you score.
Yeah.
So the person who is taking the exam, I'm the examiner. So I'm jahil, I'm ignorant that how you will perform. Now, who is taking the exam? Who is the examiner?
Allah is the examiner and Prophet Ibrahim is the
Can
one
you say
who's
Allah
taking.
is now with the jahil?
No.
So what sort of exam is this?
It's an exam to test his to test how much faith he has in Allah and whether he would turn to him back and ask for help. So normally you're like a normal examiner wouldn't help the one who they're taking an exam to. But if Prophet Ibrahim, and I know Prophet Ibrahim did turn to Allah to ask him to help him to pass these tests, and we all do on a normal day-to-day basis. So Allah is going to help you if you ask him. So he isn't jahil.
That's why my question is, if Allah is not jahil, Allah knows everyone, everything, He knows everything. So He is testing Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam.
It's to show us.
To show us what to show?
Yeah, because like it's to show us and to show Prophet Ibrahim that you know how much high of a rank he can reach. And if you like relate it to us now, we can say that, you know, people say, why were we brought to this world if Allah knows everything? And He knew where we would go, whether He would go for hell or whether we would pass the test.
If, for example, we keep other verses of the Holy Quran, can you prove that when this verse, when that trial happened, when he was a young person, he was a youth, Hazrat Ibrahim والسلام, or when Hazrat Ismail والسلام, was born, that test happened? When did it happen?
It was when Hazrat Ismail was born.
Evidence. You can't? I'll give you a hint. Wait for a while. There are some verses here from. So, another question. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ. When his Lord tested Ibrahim with certain words, kalimat. What are these kalimat?
The kalimat are the tests that he was faced with. So like he had to slay his own son. So that was one of the tests. That was one of the tests that Allah had given him. Another was to leave his son and his wife in an uninhabited desert. And then he had to break idols near the Kaaba. And then he was thrown in the fire. And that was a test again from Allah.
فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. So what did he do?
And he passed them successfully.
Okay. Then Allah says, "Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama." So imama, before Imam, he became Imam, he was
A prophet.
What is the difference between prophet and Imam?
Okay, so a prophet is a person who would receive the divine guidance from the divine revelation from Allah.
Okay, there are three things: Nabi, Rasul, and Imam.
Yeah.
Difference between all these three.
So a Nabi is one who would receive the revelations from Allah
Okay.
and he would give it to the people.
Mhm.
A Rasul is one who would also guide them with those revelations that he's received and from the past revelations which were given by the Nabi. And an Imam is a person who would guide them, lead them spiritually, politically, and like in every aspect, and he would lead them compared to and also a prophet would only guide them with what he had, with the means that was available to him, while an Imam would find the means, but even if it's not available to him, he would like lead them, like he would go and get the authority so that he could lead them.
So you're saying that Imam is a leader.
Imam is also a leader.
What about Prophet? He's not a leader.
He is, but he isn't like he doesn't have that much higher for rank to lead and guide the souls outwardly and inwardly.
Who has a higher status, Imam or Prophet?
Imam,
How come?
because he has to lead the people as well, not only spiritually but politically in every aspect of their life.
From this particular verse, can you prove that Imam has a higher status than a prophet?
Because Prophet Ibrahim he was a prophet. But then Allah, after he passed the test, and the tests were really hard, the tests weren't easy. Like example, if I would get this test today, I probably wouldn't be able to pass it. So this shows how high of rank in Imamat is because Allah gifted him with it.
Ahsanti, jazakumullah khairan. So after giving the trial and exams, you get the higher rank,
Yes.
not the lower rank.
Yes.
Okay, so according to you, Imamat is a higher status than Risalat and Nubuwwat.
Yes.
Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam is higher than Rasul Khuda?
No. But no. Because Rasulullah was also an Imam.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was also the seal of all the prophets. And he had the whole religion. So now for Imam Ali, he had to take everything.
Do you call Rasul Khuda Imam
No.
Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
No,
wasallam?
he called him Rasulullah. Because he is the messenger of Allah, and he was the seal of the Islam.
So how will you solve this mystery here? Muhammad is higher than Risalat, but Rasul Khuda is higher than Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam.
Because Imam Ali he learned from Rasulullah. So the teacher is normally higher than the student, and he learned from Rasulullah. And Rasulullah was he was the seal of the prophethood.
Rasul Khuda is Imam as well.
Yeah.
He is Imam. As you said, he is Imam, he is Nabi, he is Rasul. So he possesses all these three. Okay. But Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam is just Imam.
Yeah.
Okay. Difference still I didn't get. Imamat and Nubuwwat. What is the difference between Imamat and Nubuwwat? I have to clarify. Because leadership, you find the leadership there as well in Risalah. So we have Rasul, they were leaders of their community.
Yeah, they were leaders of their community, but they didn't have all the revelations from Allah. So like the Imams had everything. So they only could lead with what they had.
Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. Do you know bit Arabic or not? Do you know? No. Ja'il is ism fa'il. Ja'il is a noun. I'm the one who makes. Who is the one who makes imam?
Allah.
Okay? Ja'il. It's not a verb. So, what sort of tafsir you can derive from this particular word?
That Allah is the only person who can appoint someone as an
Okay,
Imam.
let me give you a hint. Ja'il
Okay.
is not a verb. In verb, for example, Allah is not saying ja'ala or yaj'alu, that I will make or I have made. No, I'm ja'il. I'm the one who's making this. Why Allah has not used a verb rather than a noun? What sort of commentary you can?
A noun is like you can refer it straight to a person. or a thing. And so Allah is like, He did it, like no.
It's simple. The answer is Ja'il. Allah is saying, Papa, this is my duty.
Okay.
I'm the one who's making. You're not the one who can make Imam.
True.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Qala wa min dhurriyati. Okay, Qala refers to, goes back to, what's the pronoun of Qala?
You, Prophet? The Prophet Ibrahim?
Prophet Ibrahim. So, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu said, wa min dhurriyati.
And of my offspring. What about my offsprings?
Okay. قال لا ينال عهد الظالمين. So from this particular word, I'm just asking, can we say that Imam is appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? لا ينال عهد الظالمين.
Yeah, because He says my covenant.
Ahsanti. And from this covenant, you come to know there is a covenant between
Allah
and
the Prophet and like the everyone else.
no.
The
La yanalu, my covenant will not reach to the zalimeen. My pledge
All the
does not
imams
extend
and
to
the
the
prophets.
unjust. So there is a covenant between.
Allah and the Imams and the Prophets.
Who knows this covenant?
Allah knows it.
That's it. This particular phrase says that Allah is the one who will make it Imam, because no one knows about the covenant. There is an ahd, there is a covenant, there is a pledge between Allah and Imam. So, if, for example, someone says that the kalimatin, these kalimat were the names of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam, and we have riwayat as well. So how will you explain فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ? So there were some names, and Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam fulfilled that names. So how will you explain? How will you do the commentary on that? While keeping the kalimatin as the names of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam.
So wait, can you repeat?
You didn't get that question?
Yeah.
Bi kalimatin. The way you did the commentary, kalimat are the words. You said that kalimat are not words, these were actions. As you said, that he had to slaughter his son, he took his family to Makkah, and all these trials were there. So you're saying that bi kalimatin, kalimat are not words, these are actions. If I say no, kalimat means words. Kalimat means names of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wassalam, because we have riwayat for that as well. Then how will you solve this? فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ, he fulfilled those kalimat.
Because he passed the test, so he got imamat, and he also gave imamat to his descendants, who are the kalimat, like you said, Ahlul Bayt.
لا ينال عهد الظالمين. I just said that. Who are zalimin?
The unjust.
Unjust is a translation. Who are zalimin?
Zalimin are the people who do dhulm, who.
Again, it's a translation. Explain.
Okay, all right, okay. So they're the people who, they don't just do injustice to themselves, so like they commit sins, they worship false deities, so false gods. They disrespect the religion of Islam.
Okay. In shirka the zulmun azim. So shirk is the biggest zulm a person can do. Okay. So the person who was mushrik cannot become imam. And the person who is doing guna. So a person should be pure, he should not be zalim,
Yes.
and he should be just. What is the opposite of zalim?
Muttaqeen? Muttaqeen?
I didn't get you.
Muttaqeen?
Muttaqeen. Okay.
A righteous person?
Unjust. What is the opposite of unjust?
Just.
Okay, justice of Allah.
Yes.
What is the word for that?
Justice of Allah. Adala?
Adala. So adil, zalim, and Adil. What lesson you can get from this particular verse?
From this verse,
This is the last question, and then Sheikh can continue.
so from this verse, we get the lesson that we get is it shows us how high of rank Imamate is. So we should follow them. So we should like follow the leader. We should follow the Imams because they have a high rank. And yeah, that's the main lesson I got from this verse. We should choose the Imam, and Allah has sent the Imams, and it shows, and He's the one who has appointed them, so He knows that they would lead us to the right path.
Sheikhuna, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Sheikh. So my first question to you is this verse in question, chapter 2, verse 124. If someone asks you, simple question, what is it all about?
So this verse is all about how. Okay. It's about imamat, in short.
What if someone says to you, not really?
What if someone says?
Not really. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you look at this particular verse?
You're tested, and then Allah gave a gift, and that was imamat, right? And like it's not really, because imamat, like it says in the verse. Okay, I can't.
Yeah, I agree. The word imama appears in the verse as one of the subtopics of the verse. But the first thing that comes to mind, the moment you look at the verse, and even you read the verse in a lightning commentary and other books that you used preparing for this competition, what comes to mind? Your brother comes to you, your mom comes to you, father comes to you. This verse, what is it all about?
So our Prophet Ibrahim and the test that he faced.
Thank you. The verse talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam. And thereafter, you can go and start looking at different angles of the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam. The verse is focusing on. But the first thing, the verse is looking at Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. That's very good. This verse, as you mentioned, discusses imama.
Yeah.
If I ask you, what is the proof that this verse discusses imama? What will be the simple, straightforward answer?
Allah is talking about making Prophet Ibrahim an Imam, so it discusses Imama.
Excellent. Excellent. Now let's move forward slowly. Kidogo, kidogo. Allah mentioned, Inni ja'iluka linnasi imama. So from this sentence, I derive the topic of imama. Third question. Is there any connection between this verse and verses before it and after it?
So the verse after it talks about the Kaaba, a house or resort for mankind. It was a sanctuary, a place of prayer, where Ibrahim stood to pray. So that's how it links to Prophet Ibrahim, and it was talking about the Kaaba, and he built the Kaaba. The verse before it. I'm sorry, I'm not sure about the verse before.
Yeah, you've done well. Verses after 8. Look still at the life of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. Let's move forward. Sheikh asked you a question about the terminology kalimat. Kalimat. Do you know the literal meaning of this word, kalimat?
Words?
Words. Now, I would like to kindly request you to take your time because I didn't get the responses you gave earlier on to Sheikh. Outline for me or mention what this word kalimat represent here in this verse.
So they're the tasks that Prophet Ibrahim was faced with.
So if you bring all of them together, yes, you will classify them under the tests or the trials and tribulations that Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam had to face. I want you to take your time to mention it one after the other, because after that, I have a very important question to ask, inshallah. The first
So
one,
he had to slay his own son.
very good. Number 2,
He had to leave his wife and son in an uninhabited desert.
lovely, lovely. Number 3,
He broke the idols.
fantastic. Number 4,
He was thrown into the fire.
fantastic, excellent. So these are all tests that Prophet Ibrahim had to face. Now question. Someone comes to you, maybe your friend, and say to you, Narjis, I'm going through a lot in my life. I really don't know what to do. Exams, I failed. That I couldn't make it. I've been making dua. I've been asking Allah. I've been for ziyarah so many times. I've been for Umrah with my parents. Shabi Qadr, I did a lot of amals. But my life is still the same. Allah doesn't want to answer me. I don't know what to do. How will you use this particular verse to give that person some sort of inspiration and solace to keep going?
Okay, so the tasks that Prophet Ibrahim were faced with were like unimaginable. So I don't think even if the person who came to ask me would be able to do it, and Prophet Ibrahim did with the help of Allah. So Allah is probably not, he is listening to my friend, but he wants to see how much faith she has in Allah, just the way he wanted to see how much faith Prophet Ibrahim had in Allah and how much patience she had. So Prophet Ibrahim could do it with worse tests, like very difficult tests, and so she can do it too, and with patience, just the way he had patience.
Yeah, I will say to you, look, I'm not Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim is extra large. I'm not even small size. Ibrahim is extra large. XXX large. He's prophet of Allah. So how do you bring me to the level of Ibrahim? I can't. I'm just a simple person who is trying to make life. And yet I'm going through a lot in my life. You've done well in the first response, but I want more to throw light, because today life is very difficult, Narjis. Many people are going through a lot, young and old. Some end up on social media to find solace, and you'll not find solace on social media, for example. Some will end up, Hodanakas, may God forbid, in drugs because they want to find solace there, for example. You know, so many things happen. So in the context of this verse, as I said, you've done well in the first response. How will you, summarize it nicely so that the person will go back and say, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep going, man.
So Prophet Ibrahim was a prophet before, but even before he was a prophet, he was a normal person. And he passed those tests when he was a normal person. That's how he got the rank of prophethood. And then he got worse tests or more difficult tests. And then he got the rank of imamah. So if she can hold her faith in Allah, and she will be able to do it, and if she has patience, even though Prophet Ibrahim had a higher rank, but he was still just a normal person. He could go back at any time or, give up. But he didn't. And she won't either, because in Allah's eyes, she probably also has like a good rank.
Okay, that's a good attempt. I think Sheikh asked you the same question in a different way before. Say, for instance, you go to Mombasa Jafari, isn't it?
Huh?
Where do you go to school? Mombasa Jafari?
Where did he say?
Where do you go to school?
Oh, I'm staying in Dubai.
Oh, you are from
So
Dubai, eh? MashaAllah. Okay, so Dubai, I don't know the names of the schools in Dubai, man. So, say for instance, at your school in Dubai, your principal comes to your class and you are the final year students. And he says to some of the students, you're not going to sit for exams. I'm going to give you A stars. You just proceed to universities. You are admitted already. And then he looks at the other group and he says to them, you're going to sit for your exams. And then after that, we see what comes up. So after the exams, those who sat for the exam, they also pass with A stars. And those others were given A stars. What's the difference between the two in going forward?
So the people who probably didn't get the exam probably were hardworking in their normal school days, and in their other tests they probably passed. That's why they were exempted from doing the final exam. While the others, they have been given another chance to pass the tests.
Really?
Maybe.
It's good, but think about it a little bit. You've done well. Your attempts are good. Obviously, those who sat for the exams and passed, their feeling will be unbelievable, isn't it? Because we work for it. It wasn't a joke. You were giving freebies. Free. Enjoy. In other words, the one who strives for it, cherishes it, and appreciates it more than the one who never strive for it. Do you agree with me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, it's like you have two children, two sons. One grows up, the father has everything for him, no big deal. But this one works very hard. So the one who works very hard will make sure he protects it. So what I'm trying to say is that, Narjis, imtihan is Allah's sunnah, is Allah's tradition to make us perfect, to make us strong, to make us his true slaves and servants. So if he tested Ibrahim alayhi salam, why not us? It's not because he doesn't want to accept us. In fact, on the contrary, he really wants to accept us. So let's go forward now, Narjis. Next question. Someone comes to you again and says to you, not just by. For me, Ahlul Bayt are not infallibles. They are not masumi. They are ordinary people. Yes, they worked hard, like the way professors work hard at uni, and they get promoted. They're just normal human beings like us. How will you use this verse? I'm not going out of the verse. This verse to prove the infallibility of an imam.
So an imam is the leader of mankind, and no ordinary person can be a leader of mankind unless Allah gives them the authority. And Allah has given the authority to him, to Prophet Ibrahim, and to the Ahlul Bayt. And it shows in this verse because they're the covenant of Allah. And they have got it from here. So like it says, and my covenant, and from my covenant, they are the Ahlul Bayt, and that's where they've come from. So
there is no mentioning. Okay, continue. Sorry, continue.
So I was just going to say, so they aren't just ordinary people because they are an imam, and an imam is a leader of mankind. They have a high status.
Yeah, so I agree. Imam has higher status. But how do I use this line which you've just quoted? La yanalu ahadi al-zalimin. To prove to my friends, to my colleagues, that an imam, before we come to Ahlul Bayt, imam is infallible. It needs a bit of thinking here.
Unjust, right?
Yes,
Unjust
that is the word. Yeah, that's the word. But explain more. I need explanation. Convince me, convince the audience, convince your friends that to be an imam, you must be infallible. Otherwise, you cannot be an imam. Bismillah Narjis.
So Allah says, my covenant will not include the unjust. And the unjust are the people who are not infallible because they have committed sin in their life, and they may or may not have done shirk in their life before. And if you have done that, that means you're not free of sin. You have sin in you. And therefore, they cannot be an imam. So the Imam and the Ahlul Bayt were not unjust. They never committed sin. They were free of sin. This shows that they're infallible. And imams are only the people who are infallible. And this verse proves it because it says it will not include the unjust.
Can you give me examples of unjust people? Give me different examples of unjust in terms of accepting the message of the Holy Prophet. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Give me different examples.
So they could be idol worshipping, or some people worship the sun and the moon, so that's shirk. Maybe all those who do stuff that the Prophet has said not to do, so like this, they commit sins. So even the slight of sins like disobeying or shouting or something like that. So they've already committed the sin. So those are the people who are unjust. Or to go to an extreme example, it could be like ISIS or Israel.
Okay.
Because they're righteous people.
Okay, so let me help you, Narjis. Now you bear with me and pay attention. We're going to do it together. And then if you get it right, then you get some good marks from me, yeah? Because to me, this is the crux of the matter, yeah? Allah sent our beloved prophets with this universal, beautiful message. You agree?
Yes.
Yeah. So when prophets came with this message, different people accepted him in different ways, isn't it? So now we're going to look at the people who accepted prophets and who did not accept prophets. Number one, there are those who initially they were idol worshippers, and then later on they accepted the message of the prophet. When we discuss injustice in their lives, will we mention them as being unjust at one point or not?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Narjis. At one point, they were idol worshippers, but now they are Muslims. But we cannot ignore the fact that they were unjust at one point. So that is number one. That's number one.
Yes.
Let's go number two. Number two is the opposite of number one. So what is the opposite of number one? Tell me.
They listened to the prophet and they did worship Allah, but then they deviated from the path and started worshiping idols.
Thank you. So still, when we talk of injustice, will we talk about their injustice or not?
Yes, we will.
And in fact, it's worse than the first one, isn't it?
Yes.
That's number two, Narjis. So pay attention because I will ask you the question at the end. Number three, this one throughout his or her life never accepted prophet. Throughout. Is that person unjust or not?
Yes.
It's worse than the first and the second, isn't it?
Yes.
Then the last one. Throughout his or her life accepted prophets. There wasn't a time when he or she was unjust. These are four. Which one of these three is the best, is the highest?
The last one.
The last one, why?
Because they worshiped the prophet, they listened to the prophet and they worshiped Allah their entire life. So they were never unjust. They never did worship anything other than Allah.
So let's do a bit of history here. If you look at Prophet Muhammad and all his ummah and companions, who amongst them never prostrated to an idol right from the beginning?
Imam Ali.
So prove for me their infallibility in this verse then.
He from the time he was born, he listened to the prophet and he always followed the prophet, and he never did do anything that the prophet did not do. And the prophet was also infallible. So he also became an infallible because he never was unjust.
Excellent. So Allah says, La yanalu ahadi al-zalimin. So zalimin here could be someone who worshipped idol before and he changed to become a good person. Could be someone who was good before and he changed to become bad person. Could be someone throughout his life unjust. So we remain with the last one. Never prostrated to an idol. This is how we prove the authenticity or the infallibility of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was what I wanted us to do to prove that indeed it's not just hearsay. Ahlul Bayt are infallibles. And it begins with Imam Ali alayhi salam. Because Allah says this promise, this covenant, unjust will not attain it. Fantastic, Narjis. I have like last two questions and then inshallah we will release you and then you can fly to Dubai, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. My next question is this next question just to seek clarification, really? It's not necessarily a question, just to seek clarification from your answer to Sheikh again. So Sheikh asked you a very beautiful question, which is also one of the highlights of this verse. The differences between imamate, prophethood, and messenger. So you have Imam, you have Nabi, you have Rasul. Can you, in a very simple way, share with us, because many people are watching online, the main difference, in a very simple way, for your younger brother or sister? You have a brother or sister?
Both.
Oh, mashallah. So, mashallah, you are Jannati, inshallah. For them to understand, not just Babi, I don't understand. Not just Babi, I don't understand. Imam, what is Imam? What is Prophet? What is Messenger? Why Shia say Imam is very high? So give me, let's go, Narjis, give me the difference.
So,
Start with Nabi. Yeah.
So a Nabi is a person who will receive the divine revelations from Allah and he will give it to the people.
Okay.
A Rasul is one who will receive the divine revelations and use also the divine revelations revealed before him to give it to the people and guide them and lead them and guide them.
Okay. Again with the Rasul, if you can go again.
And Imam is one who will get the divine revelations from Allah. No. And Imam already has the divine revelations from the Nabis and the Prophets, which were revealed. So example, Imam Ali had the ones which, everything that the Prophet had brought, the whole religion. And they took that and they were the walking, talking to Quran. They guided the people and they led the people outwardly and inwardly and they changed them spiritually.
Okay, Narjis. This is good attempt. Nabi is from Naba, receives the message. That's it. As they convey, they don't convey, fine, but they receive the message, yeah? Rasul, no, very high. Different level. Receives the message and obliged to convey the message. Nabi not necessarily obliged to convey, but Rasul obliged, wajib, convey. Ya ayyuha Rasul balligh ma unzila ilayk. That's a typical example. Convey. Imam, it's not about just receiving and conveying, but make sure it is implemented. You get the point, Narjis? Imam?
Yes.
Make sure it is what? Implement. That's why we are waiting for Imam Mahdi to come to implement.
Yes.
It must be implemented. Otherwise, the sunnah of Allah will not be realized on earth, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So Imam is very sophisticated position. It's very complicated one. Yeah. What is unique about the Rasul?
What?
Unique about Rasuls?
Unique about the Rasul?
Yeah.
They don't need to implement it.
Yeah, that's there. But when it comes to also receiving books from Allah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm done. Last one, last question, finally. Then you go. And inshallah, get me those chocolates from Dubai free duty, inshallah. Last question. Last question. When you were preparing for this competition, I'm sure you came across a lot of materials and you discussed maybe with your teachers, yourself, your parents. Can you share some of the benefits you got by preparing for this competition and encourage others to do? Because mashallah, you are all the way from Dubai. Very far, mashallah, it's impressive.
So doing like such a simple verse, having like, it has a lot of depth and a lot of like, you need a lot of understanding, and it's basically like enlightens us to how beautiful the religion of Islam is. And like, you know, before when we're just reading the Quran, we just read it, and like if I would have come across this verse before, I would have not known what it really meant, or you know, I wouldn't have known how high of a status an Imam is, or I wouldn't have known all the tests that Prophet Ibrahim went through, and this was talking about that. But after reading this verse, you see all the lessons you can learn, all the things you get to know about Islam, how many people's questions you could answer, and how many people you could guide as well after understanding the Quran properly. That it's like, it's it's just really beautiful how it is. So I would you
MashaAllah.
basically get, yeah.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much. Narjis, wish you all the best of luck. And inshallah, we look forward to seeing you next year if we all remain alive.
Inshallah.
Now you are free. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Few questions I'll ask Sheikh,
Huh?
because those who are live, and some of the reflections I want Sister Narjis to reply. So keep the ayah in front of you. Okay. Izibtala Ibrahim. With the translation of it, Izibtala Ibrahim.
And when his Lord tried Ibrahim a certain,
So, Izibtala Ibrahim. What is the lesson we can get?
so
Ibrahim was
a prophet,
a prophet.
but he also got tested.
What is the lesson I can get from this?
Allah even tested the prophets. So
For me,
for me,
yeah,
okay. So he also tests us.
that's it. If prophets are tested, so what about me? I'll get tested as well. Two, فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ. What is the translation of it? He fulfilled those.
Yeah.
Okay. So he gave the test and he fulfilled, he passed that test. He got the position or not?
He did.
What was the position?
Imam.
Okay, what is the lesson?
So once you pass,
For the community leaders, you can give.
if you pass all the tests, then you will get a higher rank in the eyes of Allah.
So those who want to get higher rank,
They need
they
to
have to
pass
go through
the tests.
test. Without test, you cannot get a higher rank. Another. لا ينال أحد الظالمين. As Sheikh said, al-zalimin is showing something about the past and the future. So a person who is supposed to reach up to the higher rank, he should have a good past
And a good future.
What is the lesson?
We should always keep Allah in front of us, and we should always have a good past and a good future if we want.
If someone has to become the pramukh of our community, you have to see his
Past and
past and the future, what he's supposed to do.
yes.
La yanalu ahdil, for the future. Okay, the ayah actually, what I was saying that he got tested in his old age,
Yeah.
as I was referring it to. Can you please take out that ayah? Oh. So there are two different verses. Switch for a while. This is the verse, Surah Safat, verse 101 to 106. Surah As-Safat.
Sorry, what surah number is Surah Safat?
This is Surah number 37. Surah 37.
Verse number?
101 to 106. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. What is the translation? So we gave him good tidings of a forbearing boy, Halim. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ. Okay, read out the translation.
So we gave him the glad tidings of a forbearing son. When his son reached the age of working with him, he said, "O my son, verily I saw in a dream that I was sacrificing you. So what is your opinion?" The son said, "Father, do what you are commanded. If Allah wills, you will find me of the steadfast."
Go ahead.
Then when they had both surrendered themselves to the will of Allah, and Ibrahim laid his own son down prostrate his forehead, we called out, "O Ibrahim, verily you have made good your dream. Verily thus we do recompense those who do good."
This is the last part. إِنَّ هَذَا لَهُوَ الْبَلَاءُ الْمُبِينُ. Bala. Indeed, this was the clear trial. And the verse which you recited, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ, and we tested, there was a trial of Ibrahim, and it is a clear trial. Okay, this is one verse. The next verse, I'm referring it to you, is you take out this verse. Alhamdulillah, wait. This is the verse. Alhamdulillah alladhi wahaba li ala al-kibari. That all praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That in my old age, He has given me Ismail and Ishaq. So Ismail and Ishaq were given to us, Ibrahim in his old age. And the Holy Quran says, the trial was of the trial of slaughtering his own son. So if you combine these two ayats together, you'll come to know that this trial was in his old age and was a trial of slaughtering his own son. Ahsanti, jazakumullah khaira. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can we call the last participant to come to the front? When you come, please start with stating your code for both the judges so they know. Thank you. For all the viewers, there's refreshments at the back, so please help yourself.
I've already 465, we've already done the research paper on that.
Huh?
You've already done the research on 465.
The research
Pick any other verse. The verses you have done the research, you have to go for any other verse.
I haven't done the research for this.
So your sister secular testimony.
Yeah.
You have not. Oh, you haven't done. in the paper or not?
Yes.
So ayah is Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, Surah An-Nisa, verse number 65. فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا
Sorry,
يُؤْمِنُونَ.
what is her name and number? I need to know.
Nisa, verse 65.
Yeah, and her name and the number.
GA04MA.
GA04MA. Excellent. Your name?
Sakina Kasamali.
Okay, thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحاكموك فيما شجر بينهما ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم رجاء مما وقضيت ويسلموا تسليما. The first part of this ayah is saying no by your Lord. Here, Allah's decision is final. He's saying no by your Lord. They will not be believers until they make you a judge in what they have dispute among them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to say here that He has given full authority to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that his judgment, his decisions, you have to follow them, and those who do not follow his decisions are not sincere in their faith, and they are not close to Allah. And those who listen to the Holy Prophet ﷺ are sincere in their faith. So there was a reason behind why this ayah was revealed, and there was a conflict, a dispute between a Muhajir and Ansar about irrigation. So Prophet Muhammad's judgment was for the Muhajir, and the Ansar went to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and told him that you have taken the side, you have given your judgment to the Muhajir because he's your cousin. And Prophet Muhammad's face turned pale, and this ayah was really revealed for that reason. The surprising thing was, in this ayah, the people had made Prophet Muhammad the judge themselves, and then they are going against their judgment. They're questioning him after his judgment, and they are saying that you have chosen sides and because of your relationships and not gone with the way of law. So the cross-reference for this ayah is Surah Nisa 59. It's saying here that, O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the messenger and those vested with authority among you. And then if you have any quarrel concerning any matter, if you have any disputes, any conflicts between your Muslim ummah or anything, you go to the Prophet who has authority, and you have to give full obedience. So you have to obey the decisions, and that's when you know what is right and what is wrong. And the only way that you can the judgment will come to your favor is when you believe in the day of judgment and you have full faith in Allah.
Santi, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you. I'll ask some questions, then I'll leave it to Sheikh, then I'll come back to you again. So the verse is starting from Fala wa Rabbika. Wa Rabbika, what is the translation of Wa Rabbika?
Your Lord.
By your Lord.
By.
Is it a qasam or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a swear.
Allah is swearing. So there are different words. Allah has different words Allah has used for swearing.
Yes.
Wal asr, والتين والزيتون والله. For example, you say wallahi. Why warabbiki? Warabbika, by your Lord. Why the word Rabb has been used? What is the connection between the Rabb and the message of the ayah which is going to be given?
So it's saying here that because Allah has given full authority to Prophet Muhammad, so he has it's saying by your Lord, because Allah has given the authority to Prophet Muhammad, and then you go and seek, for example, concerning your disputes and all to the Prophet. So yeah, that's why.
Okay. La yu'minuna. Translation of La yu'minuna is? They will not believe.
They will not believe.
Okay. So these people actually, these were Muslims or not Muslims?
They were Muslims.
They were believing in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or not?
They were.
But why? Allah is saying, La yu'minuna. They did not believe.
They did not believe because he thought when Prophet Muhammad, for example, he took the side of the Muhajir. So he thought maybe their faith was not that strong
Is there any difference between Iman and Islam?
It might be quite similar. Because if you have your faith, your Iman is strong, and when you want to follow Allah, you have to have a strong Iman to be in the path of Islam. Otherwise, you will be diverted in another way.
Can you please open chapter Al-Hujurat verse number 14. Can you please explain it to us? What is the difference between Iman and Islam? Surah Al-Hujurat,
Hujurat is
verse number
which surah is
14.
Hujurat?
This is Surah 49. Verse number 14.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. قالت الأعراب آمنا. So the Bedouins say, we have believed, we have Iman, we are mu'min. قل لم تؤمنوا. Say, you have not yet believed. ولكن قولوا أسلمنا. But say instead, we have submitted. وَلَمَّا يَدْخُلِ الْإِيمَانُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. For faith has not yet entered your hearts. So there is قُولُوا أَسْلَمْنَا. So Islam is there, submission is there.
But there is no Iman.
Okay. What is the difference between here, Islam and Iman?
So Islam is when you're submitting that you follow Allah and you follow the prophets. But Iman is when maybe you show it by action, or when, for example, you follow Islam, but you don't pray namaz. So your Iman comes when you start praying your salahs and like something like that.
Okay, see, Aslamna. Aslamna is connected with Qulu, with Qawl. Qawl is saying. And when it comes to Iman, it is connected to the Qulub, to the hearts.
So it's
Explain.
it's saying that you have to have like the love for Allah, like you when it's saying entering your heart, maybe it's referring to love of like maybe Allah.
So Iman is in heart.
Yeah.
Qulu, say, Aslamna. Islam has to do
With speaking.
with speaking. Now explain.
So Islam is when you speak it, and Iman is when it's in your heart.
It is in heart. Okay, how will I come to know that you have Iman in your heart?
Maybe by doing the action.
Ahsan. So what is the action this ayah is referring to? حتى يحكموك فيما. So they were saying that we have a belief that you are prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
But, Ya Rasulullah, will not accept. Now connect this Iman in their heart with the action.
So what are you trying to say? Like,
I'm saying that La yu'minuna. The Holy Quran is saying that they do not believe. How can you say, but they're believing? From which part of the ayah you can say they do not believe in Allah, in Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a messenger?
so he's saying he will not diminish anything of your deeds. So it's when
Okay, I'll make it easy for you. If, for example, if I tell you, if you go outside, anaconda is waiting for you outside. And if you believe, will you go outside?
no.
No, you don't go. Okay. If I believe that he is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever he says, he doesn't say anything from his pocket.
Yeah.
Allah is the one who is saying. Okay, so will I accept his words, his judgment or not?
If he's saying it from Allah, then I will accept.
If I do not accept,
then we are not submitting fully.
then we do not have Iman then.
Yes, we don't.
Now please do the tafsir.
So what do I have to say? Like,
So Allah is saying, La yu'minuna, they do not believe in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Why? They do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where is the problem in the action?
they don't have the Iman.
They don't have the Iman. Okay, from where you will come to know they don't have Iman? There is a problem in action. That's what I'm asking actually.
They have not obeyed Allah yet.
Okay, because they are not accepting the judgment of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you ever believe that he is the Prophet,
Yeah.
accept the judgment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So their action is contradicting with the belief. So that's why Allah is saying, La yu'minuna, they do not believe that he is the messenger. If they believe, they'll accept the judgment.
Yes.
Okay. Another thing is, what is the meaning of shajara? Shajar in Arabic. Shajar.
Tree?
Tree. Ahsanti. So you have made my task easy. Shajar is tree. And here shajara is a dispute. What is the connection between a tree and a dispute?
A dispute is like a conflict, and a tree is a living thing that Allah has created.
I'll just give you a hint. Entanglement. In disputes, you have a lot of entanglement. And in shajar, you have a lot of, the branches are entangled with each other. Quarrels. Okay. Sheikhuna, if you want to ask some question, I'll come back to her.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sheikh. You know, we have 45 minutes to 1 hour. So inshallah, we have to be a bit quick, inshallah. My first question to you, I would like you to focus on the verse and give us a good understanding of the verse from your perspective. So the first question is, when you look at this verse, what is the main theme, subject of this verse?
Wilaya.
Wilaya. Where do you get that from? I don't see any wilaya in this verse.
So when it's saying here, we have to fully submit. It's so wilaya is, the definition is divine authority when a person has to give absolute obedience. So we mean absolute obedience when we are completely submitting to the wilaya of like, for example, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
So wilaya, you said, is absolute authority.
No, divine authority.
Okay, no, it's fine, that's okay. But still, can you show me in this verse where we get the wilaya from?
When you go to the Prophet Muhammad with your disputes, and
Yeah.
for him to make a decision about it.
Yeah, so following the authority of the Prophet, isn't it?
Yes.
Excellent. Second question. You did very well by referring to the reason for the revelation of this verse. But I would like to say there is not only one reason for revelation. There are other reasons. Do you know any other reason for the revelation?
No, I don't.
You don't know, huh? So inshallah, it's something, inshallah, when you get back to Mombasa, look into it, inshallah, yeah? But you've done well. Yeah, there are other reasons for the revelation of this verse, inshallah. Let's move on. When you look at this verse, Sakina, you realize that this verse is teaching us something which is very fundamental. What do you think is that thing? Take your time, take your time. This verse is a very powerful verse by all standard. It teaches us something or some things that are very important.
It's saying that when, for example, like if you have problems in your life and when you want to solve them or anything, you go to like the prophet. At that time they used to go to the prophet and they used to make decisions and finalize about what is going to happen. And that's the lesson you can learn when, like, if you have a problem, you shouldn't just, like, you can also go to others and get help, or, you know, not only keep it to yourself.
Okay, that is on the lessons learned, which we will come to that later, inshallah. Focus on the verse, Sakina. Look at the verse from very close or closely. This verse is really teaching us something crucial when it comes to our faith, when it comes to our Iman. I'm giving you some tips.
I think I've got a hint. It's saying here they will not be true believers. So maybe if they don't submit to your decision, or they don't agree with your decision, they won't be true believers, and they're not sincere in their faith.
So now you've started very well, mashallah. I'm going to give you more hints so you can take us through a journey by looking at the verse. This verse, Sakina Kasamali, Mombasa, is teaching us not less than 3 signs of a true believer. 3 signs of a true believer. So I want you now to help us kindly bring out those 3 signs. Refer to the part of the verse and then tell us this part is talking of this sign. And then you take us to the second one and then to the third one, inshallah, Sakina. Take your time, because this is very important. I want us to benefit from you and from your preparations of many months.
Okay, so one is they have to make you the judge in their disputes.
So if you can quote the part and then explain, and then you quote the next one. Like you are teaching us now, you are doing like tadabbur, reflection, tafsir, if you like.
Okay, so here it's saying they will not be true believers until they make you a judge in what they dispute amongst themselves. So if you don't make them your judge, you are not a true believer. That's number one.
If you don't make what a judge?
If you don't wait 1 second.
Okay, I will wait for 2 seconds.
So you won't be a true believer if you don't, for example, you take the prophet. If you don't make him the judge in the disputes that you have.
No, I don't want for example. Just go straight to the point. What is the verse talking about? Don't say for example.
To make them judges in your disputes.
To make who judges?
The prophets and imams.
Here we are talking of Prophet Muhammad, Sakina.
Okay.
So the first sign of a true believer is to make our beloved prophet your judge.
Yes.
You understand, Sakina? We will come to imams later on. Don't worry. We'll come. There are so many questions waiting there, inshallah. Now, first sign, make prophet your judge. When you have disputes amongst yourself, that's number one. And mashallah, you quoted the line beautifully. Let's go to the second sign of a true believer in this verse.
And you should not have any, you should not have your judgment against what they decide. That's number 2.
Excellent. Excellent. Number 1, make him your judge.
Yes.
Number 2, don't have any discomfort by his judgment. Accept it.
Yes. Accept it.
Don't have any discomfort. Why this, why this, why that? La. Prophet he said, it's done deal, man. Done deal. Aina waswasi.
Yes.
The third sign?
The third one is full submission.
May God bless you. Full submission. So you see, it's a very powerful verse, Sakina.
Yes, it is.
Highlighting on the signs of a true believer. First, accept the judgment of the Holy Prophet. Number 2, whatever the judgment might be, it may be what you are expecting or not.
Yeah.
But don't have this, disrespect and showing discomfort and anger towards the judgment of the Holy Prophet. And the third sign of a true believer is what? You submit. Now, follow-up question on this. Are you following me, Sakina?
The question.
Yes, okay, I'm going to ask the question, yes, now.
Okay.
Prophet is not with us today.
Yeah.
Is this verse applicable to us or not? Because somebody will say this one is about that Muhajir and Ansar, and Prophet passed the judgment, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala talks about it. What is the relevance of this verse to us in this day and age?
Yeah, it's active. Like, for example, the ayatullahs, when like they give the ruling of, like, for example, the namaz, how is it supposed to be recited. So it's the same thing as giving full submission to the marjas.
Okay. Now you've opened another document now. Asante Sakina, may God bless you. Listen to the question, Sakina. It's good. The attempt is good. I like your attempt. This happened during the time of the prophets. Is this verse relevant to us today in Mombasa or not? Because you live in Mombasa, that's why I'm in Mombasa.
Yes, it is relevant.
Explain why it's relevant.
Okay, they might not be with us right now. The Prophet might not be with us right now, but he's the Quran is there. It's guiding us. So like we can get the guidance from here, and then we see like and then we submit to it. So whatever, like for example, the verses that the Prophet said, some like the other things. So we submit to what he has said as well.
Okay, do you go to Mombasa Jaffery's?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me give you a practical example. Then in the context of this verse, you explain to us, inshallah. So say one day you go to Mombasa Jaffery, you go to class, you go to school. And then you have or disputes about something in your religion with your friends, with your colleagues. And you don't seem to find an answer. All of you struggle, disputing, challenging one another. What do you do? Prophet is not there. What do you do?
You go to the teacher.
Okay, you go to the teacher. Teacher said, you know what? I'm also struggling, man. This is my point. And then one said, no, I don't agree to the teacher. What will you do?
Maybe you find a solution within yourselves. You make an agreement.
Yeah, but this is a religious matter. I cannot just find a solution within myself. It's not
but
an
like
ordinary thing of this world.
Okay, so if we refer back to the ayah for the religious matter, the only thing that's coming to my mind is the marjas, that's all.
No, you've done well, I like it. Obviously, after Prophet, we go to our Imams. But the Imams, who is the 12th Imam, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farjahu Sharif, is an occultation.
Yes.
So those that we have are our marjas. But the question is, your marja is in Iraq, is in Najaf, and you live in Mombasa. So how do you do? What do you do? Now it's practical lesson we are trying to learn.
You use the Islamic laws.
Very good. So what if you go to the Islamic laws and it's not really, you're not understanding it? What do you do?
Maybe you can ask someone like who has studied the Islamic laws, for example, who has studied for like time and knows about it. He or she can guide you towards what you're supposed to do.
Absolutely. You go to your Maulana, you go to your resident alim or someone who knows. If he doesn't know, he will refer you to the marja. You understand? So the bottom line is what? We cannot take things in our hand. We cannot interpret things from our own selfish interest. We need to refer the matter to Allah, which is Quran and the Holy Prophets. And in the absence of the Holy Prophets, we refer to our Imams. And in the absence of our Imams or their occultation, we refer to great scholars who are our marja. And in their absence, we refer to our scholars, those who know they can also try to help us. You understand? Very good, Sakina. Now let's go to maybe last but one question, inshallah. If not last but two, yeah? The question is, Sakina, look at the verse again, closely. This verse really has some benefits. Can you tell me what are the benefits of this verse? Lessons, practical lessons. Not from yourself, by looking at the verse before I come to the lessons you learn from it.
Can you repeat the question again?
Okay. When you look at the verse, you realize that this verse indicates to some very powerful benefits or some reasons, some proofs to something. Can you mention them? Some powerful lessons.
It's talking about the believer. Maybe if like, so like the other, like we said first, the characteristics of the true believer, the three. And so it's saying here that, like, for example, you do all these three to become a true believer. And that's the advantage, I guess.
Okay, let me help you. Then we can move forward, inshallah. The first lesson I think we get from this verse is a lesson on the reason for the infallibility of the Holy Prophet, the isma of the Holy Prophets. Can you show me where is it in the verse? that Prophet is infallible. It's not just an ordinary human being.
His decisions are not wrong.
Excellent.
They're always
excellent. So can you expound on that a little bit?
so, like, he's given the status of Elijah, and he has to make the decision for whatever it is. And so when he's making the decision, he cannot have any mistakes, because if he does, then we will follow the wrong thing. But he can't, because he's infallible, he's masoom.
Fantastic, I like it. You've done well. His decision is binding. Allah would have not made his decision binding if it's not pure.
Yes.
You've done well, you've done well. I like it, you've done well. And then what's the second one? The second something also, which the verse is really highlighting and teaching us.
Maybe the full submission.
Close. You are very close to it. Excellent. Don't argue. Don't argue. Say it.
So you don't have to go against the decision. So you don't argue against it, and you give your absolute obedience and your full submission towards the decision of the Prophet.
Absolutely. Don't show resentment towards his decision. Don't try. Don't try, because it's not going to work to stand against the decision of the Prophet. Don't try. His decision is Allah's decision.
Yes.
And hence he's infallible. So don't try to do any ijtihad and effort to stand against his decision. Lovely. Now, last question. Last question. As a youth who has gone through this preparation, okay, for the QC, what one practical lesson have you learned from this? And what lesson will you share with the audience who are watching you physically and online?
So what you mean with the lesson learned in all the verses, or only this verse?
All.
Okay, so the lessons I learned there, I really found it interesting, and I found myself enjoying it a lot. And I learned a lot of lessons that in life, you always have to have sabr. The more patience you have, the more ahead you'll go, because when the prophets and the imams, they were all put through tests, and they always did sabr, and that's how they passed this test successfully. And just like us, we have to at least try, like we can't reach that level, of course, but like we can at least try to we can have the patience, and then it will happen like that. That's what I had the most.
So what will be your advice to the youth based on your preparations and participation in this competition?
Advice. I'm not to give advice, but I guess you can say that you need to take one step forward. Like if you had, for example, a thought of maybe let me do Marifah this time, you should take the step. Maybe you try doing a little something lower than Marifah, like maybe quiz is a little less tafsir. Then you can go slowly, and maybe the next year you can come Marifah, and you can also try it.
MashaAllah, thank you, Sukaira Sakina. Wish you all the best. Now Sheikh will continue, inshallah, and then he'll be released once he's done, inshallah. Thank you, Asante.
According to the ayah, is it allowed to do ijtihad against the rulings, against the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the saying of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I'm doing ijtihad.
It's there are people who do it, but it's not allowed.
From where you can say? From which part of it?
It's saying no by your Lord. Maybe when it's saying there that like you can't go. It's Allah's decision is final. This is the final decision of Allah of all this ayah that He has revealed, and you can't go against His final decision.
And لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا. They should not find discomfort in their hearts if they have some sort of judgment for you. If they do qadawat, if there is a hukum for you, you should not feel discomfort. How can you use this ayah? For example, you have your friend, she's a Muslim, she doesn't follow Islamic rulings. For example, she's not doing hijab, and she says that, oh, I do not feel good when I'm wearing hijab. So you can use this particular ayah.
Okay, so I can show her the ayah,
Okay.
and I can say the steps, all the 3 steps of being a true believer.
Okay.
And I can show her as like in using this ayah, I can use a modern way to show her, like for example, hijab, as you said. Using this ayah, I can also show her like you cannot only look beautiful without using hijab. Hijab is like, you know, maybe using that hijab can, I don't know, maybe something like that, I guess.
But she's feeling, I do not find comfortable. I'm not comfortable. I'm feeling, for example, a fish out of water, for example, if I'm going somewhere. So you can use this particular ayah and you can say, for example, لا يجد في أنفسهم حرجا. So whatever Rasul has said and all the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said, and there's a judgment from them, so you should not feel discomfort in your heart. Okay, according to this particular ayah, a lot of times we see, for example, there is an Islamic ruling for that case, but people say, oh, I do not follow this Islamic ruling. Or rather, I'll go somewhere else to find out a solution. For example, inheritance issues, we have a lot of inheritance issues. Islam is saying that you should get that much portion.
Yeah.
Okay, but they say, no, I don't want this, I'll go to the court and I'll find a judgment of the court, which is not Islamic government, it's not an Islamic court. How can you use this particular ayah?
Okay, so
is it, according to this ayah, is it allowed to leave the qadha, the judgment of Rasul and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go to the taghut, which are unjust people? Is it allowed?
it's not.
How come?
Because like you have, or can you repeat the last part again?
Is it allowed to leave the Islamic rulings? I'll not follow the Islamic rule. Because if, for example, I follow the Islamic rule, I'll get, for example, $10,000 for inheritance.
Yes.
I'll inherit $10,000, but I'll go to the Mombasa court, for example. I'll get $50,000 there. What should I do?
You can.
And that is un-Islamic, which is not allowed. I should not get that. Okay. What should I do?
I can maybe go through, maybe not only use this verse.
I cannot use this verse.
No, like you use it and use other verses as well.
Okay.
Like to show that, like give yourself like the Marifah, like, you know, teach yourself that maybe this.
So what this verse is saying, in your disputes, who should be the judge?
The Holy Prophet.
Okay, if Holy Prophet is not a judge, are we believing that he is the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? La yu'minuna. And if, for example, whatever the judgment he's passing, I'm feeling discomfort. What this ayah is saying? You should not feel discomfort in your heart, even if your share is low. No problem.
You should not debate against it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We're now finished the 15 to 18 minute category. We'll now be going for a refreshment break. We'll resume soon, inshallah.